Hello, everyone. Good evening for whoever is alive and is on this side of the planet. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. If you're watching from the other side or if you're watching when it's recorded, welcome to another Time to Talk, our bi-weekly conversations, chats about mediumship. Today we have, look at this, special guest back with us, Guilherme. Guilherme, welcome back. How are you,
Thank
Guilherme?
you. Thank you. I'm very well indeed. Very happy to be here again.
Very
Very
happy to
nice.
see you again.
You didn't
And
sound
you,
very
Rafael.
convincing. How are you doing, Faye?
All right, thank you. Better now that I see you've been accompanied to dear friends. Yeah, for a great
Very
conference.
nice.
Yeah.
Today we are on episode 55 of Time to Talk. So time passes, time flies when you're
Yes.
having fun. And let me just get it up here. Oh, there you go. Episode 55, Mediumship and Emotions. Time to talk. The idea of Time to Talk is to have a open dialogue, an opportunity for people to come and bring comments, stories, questions, so we can bring them up live and have a conversation. The idea is to make it as dynamic as possible. So please feel free to drop your comments and in the box, and we will bring them up live so you can read them. So let me start by saying hi, Elza. I can see Elza already dropped some notes here. Very nice to see you here with us once again. Um, and if anyone else is out there, send us our hello so we know where you are, where you're talking from, and then we can bring it up here as well on screen. Right. The usual announcements. What are the three main broadcasters or the groups behind this initiative, Time to Talk? First of all, SSL, the Spiritual Society of London. SSL is a study group dedicated to studying Spiritism here in the UK. You have many different initiatives, online study groups, face-to-face study groups, Tuesdays, Saturdays, Mondays. Anyways, a lot of stuff going on. Go check our pages and follow us so you can know what is coming. SSL is affiliated to BUS, the British Union of Spiritist Societies, which is the federation here in the UK. Tries to group and bring unity to help the different groups and their initiatives here in the UK. And last but not least, Kardec Radio, which has been around for over 12 years now, bringing a lot of content in English about Spiritism to you. Kardec Radio has a lot of content online, so go check their pages as well, like their Facebook, like their YouTube, follow them so you don't miss out on what is coming. Right, today, mediumship and emotions. And as usual, I'm going to start asking. I was talking to Faye the other day, preparation for today's meetings, and we were discussing about what topic should we bring. And we had a conversation. It was an interesting how we got to this theme was quite interesting because it was more of a conversation about going through this and going through that, and I think maybe there's something that we can explore, and that's how we came to this topic, mediumship and emotions. And I'm gonna go to you, Faye. What is behind this topic? What's the idea that we have to discuss about mediumship and emotions?
Well, it's there's a number of things that led me to think about that. One of them is that as mediums, we all are. But the ones, let's put this way, the ones who've decided to carry on and work as mediums, we are as susceptible to emotions, to waves of optimism or pessimism, and to a connection with the whole environment, the whole planet. So in turmoil, it's always been turmoil, but now it seems to be a bit faster. And so we can tap into those things. If we're not careful, they can get too involved in things and that we would attribute to spiritual influence. It could be, but it could be pretty much a weakened discipline that we have to try to be sensible about things and see the proportion, see what's appropriate, what's not. I mean, how do we get, how emotionally can we get involved with things and people and the events in the world? And how do we work that emotion? And what would be the best way to work that emotion? So is it any use to be exhilarated and then depressed? And why would I get exhilarated and then depressed? So would it be best for me to look for a balance and see, well, how close? It's not that I'm unsympathetic, but how much does sympathy require from mediums and people in general of an expression that would be ranging from one extreme to the other? And so that's basically it. So what should we do about all that turmoil of emotions that we get every day?
Very, very nice. And a lot of things you described are also not only related to mediumship, right? Or to a certain level, it is, but not only to mediums that are ostensive. Well, let me go to Guilherme before I dive into it. Guilherme, when you heard or when I told you about the topic, what came to your mind?
I thought you have asked me to come here to ask questions to Faye. So you lied to me. But being serious now, what comes to my mind is that everything in our lives does generate a certain level of emotions. Could be a nice picture, could be someone talking to you, could be a feeling. It does generate emotions. And mediumship is when you open up yourself to possibilities. You open up yourself to help others that are bringing to you not only the emotions, but the problems, the sufferings. And the medium will perceive what the spirit is bringing with him. So mediumship and emotions has everything to do with that. And I think, let me speak now as an indoctrinator, orientator, or whatever you want to call, right? The best way to help those that are coming to a mediumship meeting is when you use your heart and emotions coming from your heart. So you have to be able to receive those emotions, process, and give it back in a way that will let them feel better. Mm-hmm. So I see emotions as a medium, I see emotion as an indoctrinator, I see emotion as a human being. Because those that pretend they are not, they are lying for themselves. So I think I'm speaking too much already, isn't
it? Never. And I apologize, my internet's a bit flaky. If I drop or something, apologize in advance. Okay. Well, that's a good segue, Guilherme, because we were in the study group before Time to Talk today, and we were pretty much talking about the how emotions at the core of everything that we do, like as human beings, right? We still emotionally react to something, and that's what triggers us and makes us do this or that, or our actions come usually from an emotion that we feel. And the challenge that we have is how to, I guess, not allow those emotions to become too big and to a point where we cannot control them, and they become something that either as an excess that hinders us in some way, or we be the other way around, we should become so oblivious or to them, or pay no attention to them, that we don't even realize the impact that something, a situation or whatever, has on ourselves and other people. And I think that's why it's always like an interesting balance that we need to have. And the additional complication when you're talking about mediumship is realizing how much of that emotion, especially if it becomes something a bit more strong, a bit stronger, a bit more intense, is coming from me or it's not coming from me. And I think that's something that we need to be aware of ourselves and knowing ourselves to be able to spot, oh, maybe there's something going on here that's not quite coming from me necessarily. So, Faye, you were talking about in our preparation about how a specific situation might trigger something, and how you react to it. You might end up finding yourself in a mental and emotional state that you didn't want to, or even if it's in a negative way, or even if it's in a positive way, it might become an euphoric reaction that's also not necessarily what you want to, because it's above what we need or what we want.
I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. Can you elaborate a bit more on that? I don't know if you got my...
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so. And please correct me if you think I'm wrong, both of you. I was thinking of situations like, specifically at the moment, when we witness or we get information about collective disasters, environmental hazards that are hammering so many places, so many parts of the planet in different ways, but all equally difficult and sad. We can't be indifferent to those things, thinking of the people, of the countries, the situations, and all that. But when some of them were coming across as too incredibly cruel, too incredibly difficult, and I felt that I saw that my emotions were building up around those in a circle, becoming like a vicious circle. I see the information, I see it again, even if it's something that's happened in the past, in the recent past, and you sort of relive the situation. And then I stopped to think, well, hang on, what am I doing to help the situation? Either the material with in supporting the incarnate people going through that sort of moment, and the discarnate people who are also around them. So would the intensity of my emotions channel the turmoil, the negative and emotions and the suffering that none of those people would need at the moment. I mean, they could do with help, yes, they could do with sympathy, but not with the aggravation of my feelings, for example. How would how feeling upset, how would my feeling upset help anyone? And that's why I said, well, I can tap into things. What if I got a connection, or a spiritual or mental connection to anyone involved in that environment, incarnate or discarnate? How would I be helping any of them if I couldn't help my own feelings myself? Would that mean that I'm being detached, that I'm being insensitive? I don't think so. I'm trying to be sensible and find a positive form of working, using whatever it is is my position to do for the betterment of whoever is in need. That's why. I just think.
Interesting. You know, as you're saying that, I think that we were talking about the other day, us as human beings, and then how we express ourselves in terms of our thoughts. In reality, our thoughts are energy, right? The electromagnetic pulses that can be perceived or not, can influence others or not, based on sympathy. I mean, if you are linked to that line of thought or energy of which reacts, as you were saying about how a specific news or review of something might trigger something, or that emotion, that thought that you might have or not, and how that will feed into the other people and spirits they are thinking and feeling in the same way, and how also stopping that thought might be what will stop feeding into it, and it might also trigger different reactions. So give people the opportunity to receive the help or think about something different. So it's all about the mental energy and the energy that we either assimilate and just add to it, or we identify and we break a chain, so we are not adding and contributing to the continuation of it. I know that Guilherme loves that topic, the topic of thought and energy, and the synergy between different people, different spirits. So it would be good to just hear his thoughts as well on this one.
And Guilherme has a different, even experience, a greater experience than mine, because he works in so many different areas. American one. What I mean is that your views of things are broader, I think.
Let me share my questions with you.
Okay.
I think that, as ever, everything that we lose control is not beneficial. Having a bit of emotion is positive. Too much emotion? No. You gave an example of this very recent events that are happening in north of Africa, in two places, different things, South America, all over the world. We have things, right? And let's picture something different here. We're all humans. And some of us, we work as a rescuers. We arrive in an ambulance trying to find survivors of this event. If I'm stopping in front of a collapsed building, crying, am I helping? What if, instead of crying, I hold my own sentiments to later, and I start to move a little rock here, a little rock there. I found someone, I will try to do the treatment that is available. I think I'm being more proactive if I work in this way. Maybe my contribution will be very little in face of this disaster, but I'm acting. If you go to the industry, if you are a team leader or a supervisor of something, if you decide to do the work in the place of someone of the team, you lost the ability to oversee everything.
Mm-hmm.
So the lead position is to help the team. If you got too involved in what the team's supposed to do, you lost that position.
Yeah.
And in my own opinion, dealing with mediumship, because that is the main topic here, I also need to keep that north very clear. I will feel the emotions, but I need to keep my line straight. Otherwise, I won't be able to help those that may come in my way. If I'm becoming too emotional, I will interrupt a mediumship communication. I will not know what to tell the spirit that is coming.
Yeah.
I will become totally unbalanced in the meeting. And depending on the meeting, I may not only disrupt myself, but my fellow friends as well. It may happen from time to time. I'm not saying we're not humans, but we need to keep our north very clear.
Mm.
I'm trying to picture a different
No, I
thing.
think you're right, and you remind me, if I may, you remind me of a set of places that are not emergencies as such, but their situation is just like that. There are places of hospitals, for example, that I had the chance to visit to do some work, and the rule number one there says, well, all the cases there were so appalling, all of them, that the rule number one was you were not allowed to shed a tear, because one tear is going to break their resilience, the patient's resilience, the patient's strength. So you can cry your eyes out outside when you have a break, or when you leave this person, you can go outside and cry. But never in front of them, because it's like you say, one little moment that you feel more overwhelmed, that's when you destroy the little feeble line of strength that the others are trying to gather. And they depend on that line because that's the only thing they can do.
Something came to my mind, Faye.
Mm.
I don't remember which book anymore, but in one of those spiritist books, there was a chapter describing how a person wants to be prepared to go to an activity.
Yeah.
We want to pray, we want to be meditating. And there was one event that one of the friends decided to, sorry, before we go, we need to pray. And one of them, let's say the lead of the group, came to this person and said, there is time to pray, there is time to action. Sometimes the action is the prayer.
Mm.
Sometimes the action is what will bring what you are looking for.
Yeah.
So there are situations and situations. But I don't want to encourage people to be cold as ever and become
No.
monstrous. That's not what I want to. But I want to encourage people to help others, to use the best of their abilities to help others. And sometimes, if we are too deep into the emotion, we may lose that focus.
Yeah. In other words, what you're saying is seeking a balance as much as possible, because as you say, we're all humans. We all get overwhelmed at some point. There's always emotions. There's always the impact. But it's seeking balance at the right time is a form of charity.
Mhm.
So it's not my heart. It doesn't matter if my heart's broken. It's their heart that's broken. Yeah, it's not me who's hurting. I can't look at it. It's their body that's broken. That needs healing. So when that moment is over, is gone, the assistance is being given, then I can feel overwhelmed as much as I believe, but not there.
Mhm.
Yeah. So that goes to anger, revolt. It's no point. There's no point. Who are you going to blame for a mountain that drops down? Even if you could blame anyway, it's not the point.
Mhm.
That's a different matter to a different time. Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah.
So
And
from what I'm hearing is, look, emotion. Sorry, Faye. Go ahead.
no, please carry on, please.
Yeah. Now, what I'm hearing is emotion is good. It's something positive as long as we use it to react in an action in a different way. I mean, there's nothing wrong with feeling this or that, as long as think about what you mean. How can I, if I am involved in that specific vibration, how can I help it? If it's triggered by situation that's somebody's in need or something like that, instead of just kind of weeping for them, how can I act to help them? Which is quite good because I wanted to bring there's a part of the spirits book that I want to bring up for us to have a look. But it talks about passions and what are passions if just emotions that are a bit more in excess, let's say. And let me share that with us so we can read together. So that is in chapter 12, moral perfection. So there's a part dedicated to the passions. And I'm just going to read a couple of questions here. So the first question from that part, which is 907, says, since the principle of our passions originates in nature, are they evil per se? Again, passion being like a specific emotion in excess, let's say it. The spirit says, no, passion is the result of excess brought about by the will, though the principle itself was given to humans for their good. Passions can lead them to the great things. Their abuse of them is what makes them evil. So again, I think that we're both talking about it's emotions. It's not quite the same, but I'm just treating them in a similar way here. The place for them, where they come from, it's potential to do good. It's not meant to be ignored, but it's how we're using this, how we're feeling it, how we are putting this forward. That's what will make it good or not. That's the first one. Yes, something.
Don't carry on. There's always something.
The second question. Let me go to the next one. 908. Kardec asked, How may we define the limit at which the passion ceases to be good or bad? The Spirit says, the passions are like a horse that is useful when controlled, but dangerous when it controls. You can recognize when a passion becomes harmful at the moment in which you cease to govern it, and when it results in any injury to yourselves or others. If Faye was talking about, being taken away by specific, or being taken by a specific emotion or reaction to something that's going on in the world or around you in your life, and if you think about harming or injury in yourself, if that specific feeling or situation is putting you in a place of, I cannot react, I'm not moving, I stopped doing what I needed to do, and I'm getting into this, I get a bit sucked into this, bringing inaction to me, isn't that hurting you, or aren't you stopping controlling it and letting it control you? So I think that's when we start to understand and realize the impact of that.
Mm-hmm.
Go, Faye?
No, it doesn't make me think that when it was, well, when we started, I was thinking, I was linking things to one aspect of emotions, so the ones that are linked to sympathy and pity and overwhelming sadness and all that. So one negative side of it. But when you mention the word passion, and it means there is a very positive side to it, which is that the amount of energy, of constructive, positive energy that we put into something, so that our work becomes a delight, regardless of difficulties, but because we want to do it, we believe in that purpose, and as mediums, we want to be there to be a tool, an instrument. Then when you say, is there a passion around this? Well, there can be, and that's good. What I meant to say is that the mediums to express it, the sincerity, the commitment, doesn't have to be a dark, sad person. It doesn't have to get this stance of being too somber and too negative. I mean, you can be an extremely dutiful, hardworking, committed, spiritualized medium and still be happy and still transmit joy for what you do. So it's again, we come to the balance. There's nothing wrong with being happy.
100%.
Nothing wrong with being happy. And there's a distortion.
And that is exactly.
Sorry?
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, and there's a traditional distortion that anything that would be sanctified, anything that would be holy and profound and deep is also somber, heavy, and why? Why should we feel unwell and resentful and sad and deny life in the name of light? In the name of life, we should celebrate the source of our life, should we?
Yeah.
Now, none of the extremes would help, but I would say we don't need to deny joy and the passion for what we do, be in our jobs, our families, our life. Yeah? We don't need to deny any of that.
Yeah, absolutely. Which is great that you said that, because that's exactly After those two questions, Kardec has a comment, and that's exactly how he starts his comment. Let me bring it up. Passions are levers that increase humans' powers tenfold and help them to fulfill the designs of providence. So exactly what we're talking about, the energy and the commitment and the action that comes out of it. However, if instead of directing their passion, they allow themselves to be directed by them, they fall into excess. And the very power which in their hands could have done good falls upon them and crushes them instead. All the passion have their principle in a sentiment or need of nature. Therefore, the principle of the passions is not evil, because it rests upon one of the providential conditions of our existence. Passion per se is the exaggeration of a need or sentiment. It is in the excess and not in the cause, and such excess becomes evil when it results in some kind of evil. So again, emotion, it's not quite the same, but I'm just drawing a parallel between passion and emotion here. Is a moving power, is the energy that triggers reaction on us. I think that how we're going to direct that, I think that's the difference, and that's where lies if it's going to be good or not. We've been talking a lot. Guilherme is very silent, so I'm gonna.
Yeah, I think so too. And I have a question to him.
No.
Go, Faye, you have a question?
Yeah, just well, it's a well, it's not a mystery because I'm sure that there is an answer for that. But I would ask, okay, assuming that there is a passion that I would do, as the medium would work with a passion, with love and happiness, wanting to do the work, why would that mood change when he's about to work? Why? Because sometimes you say, oh, really, I'm looking forward to it. I really want to do and prepared and have all the day and all the hours preparing to be there. When it gets just about to start the work, that mood changes. Really? Why? Is it two personalities or what? What happens affecting the medium? Is it the mediums as an incarnate person that's still not quite well tuned? Or is it something else?
Faye, there are people that want us to go to the north, and there are people that want us to go to the south. Until you decide if you want to go to north or south, you are open to suggestions. The day you decide that, no, I want to go to the north, you will not hear the suggestions to go south, east, or west anymore. And some of those emotions that you feel before you start an activity or before you go to that place, or a few minutes before you leave home to go to that place, may not be yours. You may be induced to feel those energies or those sentiments or whatever, because you're not very sure if you want to go left or right, up or down. And then they will see that as a breach, and they will use that to achieve what they want. And the most important is to know yourself. I'm not discharging here the possibility of having a person with some disorder that could be happy and sad in minutes. I'm not saying that. But
yeah, but assuming that's not the case,
It must be something, isn't it?
Then it's a breach in the system,
Mm-hmm.
in the breach in our.
Mm-hmm. And quite often, you will accept the suggestion to go south once, twice. Eventually, you will start to think that, yes, the direction is south. It's not the north. Until the problem becomes a bit more substantial.
Mm.
So you need to know what you want. You need to know yourself. You need to be aware of those influences on your mood, on your emotions. Let me give another example that's very common.
Okay.
We are married here, we have kids, we are at home, and then someone bursts the bubble inside the home for no reason. What is that? Is your emotion becoming crazy, or is something else? When we see some of those reactions, some of those emotions bursting, let's ask ourselves why. Why is happening in that situation? Why is happening exactly on that day? Exactly on every Monday, this time of the day is when something like that happens.
Mm.
Exactly on that Monday, when I'm supposed to leave home to go to that commitment, someone that calls me, someone that knocks on my door. There's always something that will prevent me to go to where I'm supposed to go. This is all related to emotion. And those spirits that are around us, they see that better than we do, and they will use that. So it's a constant battle, if I may say like that. And
Mm.
it's a learning process. You won't get that in a week or two. It's a constant process until you realize that, oops, there's something different today. It's better watch out, otherwise I will drive south instead. I'm not sure if I answer your question, but that's what came to my mind.
No, I think you have. Yes. Yes.
I
Yes, because it's ever so easy, isn't it, to again to dodge the problem and attribute that change to something else. You put the blame someone else, and when it's really not quite the same, quite the case.
Now I have a question for you, because that's what I was told to do today.
Okay.
Make three questions. We are in a mediumship meeting.
Yeah.
And that particular day, there were some events. And after the meeting, the orientator, the person that's coordinating the meeting, come to you, making a point. You not accepting the comment very well, you taking that comment to heart, you burst a bubble, and you decide not to come back anymore. What can you say about that?
I think it's a bit hasty. It's a bit hasty because if the comment comes from someone from an observation point, so he's up there observing everything, and he's probably observed something that I couldn't pick up. I couldn't possibly pick up because I was too involved. Whatever it is that I did or did not do, I probably did not pick up. Or even if I did, still, the debriefing is the moment when things are as Esther, tuned in to keep the group organized. So a decision that said, well, no, I'm not coming back, it would be a refusal to face the truth, to face things that, even if the comment were inaccurate, even if the comment were unfair, I think it would still be best to wait and see and check the fairness and the points that were made. And then decide not to come back if that's the case, but not straight away. No, that will probably be. Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Because if I'm in a meeting, it's and I'm putting all my effort and my concentration on the group, on the work that's being done. So I'm focusing on my part and what I'm hearing. I simply cannot, and because it's not my part in there, to keep an eye on everything and everyone. If either I do my part or I don't.
Mhm.
Yeah?
Yep. Let me take from there and ask you and after Rafael, over your experiences in mediumship meetings,
Yeah.
what was the opposite? What was the most emotional situation you had?
Most emotional.
Please don't cry.
Do you know, I I always need a box of Kleenex in some meetings, but but once my part's done, it's always dry, finished. I think the most emotional part, I would say, it comes from sometimes during the work, in observing and witnessing something that's happening, something that's being said, someone who's expressing themselves. But it's probably after, when the work is finished and we really get the full image of what happened. Because then when that's all the bits of the jigsaw are put together. And I find that's fantastic.
And you, Rafael?
Before I say, just say that Elsa is also sending some comments, and she said she's agreeing with Faye that she goes through the same with the box of tissues, and it just happens. I would say it's similar. I think it's funny that we are talking about the emotions and mediumship and how the influences around us affect us. That we have cases where you can feel the change in when somebody realizes or gives in, let's say, that we're not there to judge them, we're there to help them, and they can see the difference in how we're treating them, and because of that they break down in terms of whatever facade they were holding to protect themselves or whatever it was. When they realize that it's only good intentions and that they change their posture, it's moving to me, because it takes a lot of courage, and it's humbling to just say I was wrong, and I accept I need help, and thank you for being here. And I always put myself in that situation as well, so I think that's always moves me, and that changes in the energy of the meeting. It changes as you were talking and as you are part of it. So this element of influence and emotions are clear.
I think the rescue point, that minute, that instant, when there's a realization, when the person, the spirit has a moment of awakening, of awareness, even if it's gentle flash, that is quite moving.
Yeah.
I would say.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Guilherme?
Yeah.
To me, by far, the most emotional example I can give is a spirit of an infant coming to the meeting and you having to talk to him. To her.
That is.
And over the years, we saw a few times, but the first time that you have to speak with was very difficult. It was very emotional to
It
the point that I almost lost control. And
it's true. I was thinking of a child, of an infant. Yeah.
it's very difficult. Very difficult. And not many people know how to handle that.
No.
Because it's easy to get lost. It's very easy to get lost in that situation. Yeah.
And there's I think in that case, there is it's a double feeling, isn't it? Because you feel the infant that is expressing, and yourself or myself as the observer. It's quite something.
It's difficult.
This conversation is leading quite nicely back to the whole point of emotion on its own, its potential, right? It can go either way. But the good thing and the important thing when you talk about mediumship and emotions is that the awareness to understand where is that coming from, and if it's being, potentialized, is it from me or is it not from me? And I think we always talk about that. We are all medium, so we're all susceptible to this influence one way or another. And I want to bring here just a couple. I know I love to bring the paragraphs. I am reading Astral City again, and I was reading, there's a chapter where there's just a simple description that I think is pretty good about the power of the influence and us identifying if we're being influenced or not, and being able to know, I want to be part of it, I want to continue being under this influence or not, right? If you don't make that decision, the emotions are going to make the decision for you. So it's important to identify so you can make that decision. And it's a quick one. Let me bring it back here. So this is from chapter 44 in Astral City. And that's when Elysius is describing to Andrea a situation where they were in a family situation. There was a lot of joy happening. There was a meeting, an encounter that hadn't happened for a long time. And they were preparing for some good work that was ahead of them. And then Lysias is explaining to Andrea that feeling of joy that was taken over everybody that was there. When souls join in the pursuit of some common interest, their thoughts mingle, forming centers of living forces through which, from the general vibration, each member of the group will receive his share of joy or suffering. That's why on the planet, environment is such an important factor in every man's life. We shall always feed on what we cultivate. If we give in to feelings of sadness, we shall become slaves of them. If we are unduly absorbed by the ideas of sickness, we shall suffer their consequences. There is no mystery. It's a law of life which works for good or evil. Whatever an atmosphere of brotherhood, hope, love, or joy prevails, we shall carry with us a share of those feelings. On the other hand, when we shall leave a gathering where inferior tendencies of selfishness, vanity, or crime predominate, we carry the destructive vibrations of those feelings. So I think here is the call for attention, let's say, in terms of what are our feelings telling about us and our mental state and our thoughts, and how much of it is coming from us or not. I think that's an exercise, right? It's not like, oh, now I know this, fine. From tomorrow, now I can understand and read all of my emotions clearly, and I can control that. It's not that. It's a process. It's an exercise. Sometimes it works, sometimes it won't. Sometimes you won't even realize. Sometimes it's too late when you realize, but another opportunity will come.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this leads to sorry, Guilherme, I have to ask you a question. So this, or putting it all together, does it mean, because you mentioned, because of your previous question, in a rescue work, we see, and I think people in any sort of rescue work see all sorts of things. So would our emotions be protected when we engage into a rescue work, spiritual rescue work? Would our emotions be protected so they don't get overwhelmed with the cases that we find? Because we see and hear things that I probably wouldn't want to see in a film. But that's life, isn't it?
What do you mean we protected?
I mean, from getting too exacerbated as to getting that we manage to keep a certain distance or looking objectively.
Everything in life is practice, right? The
Yeah.
first time you are exposed to some sort of emotion, you may be shaken. But after a period of time, it's just another one, right? So you get, with the practice, in a serious environment, you get used to it and you know you are safe. Because the main question you had is, are we protected? Yes, we are. Are we doing what we've been told to do? That's a question I cannot answer. Because a medium should follow certain guidance, some guidelines, if you will.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, of course, the emotions will follow what he or she is doing. But if the medium is following all the safety measures that we normally put in place on our day-to-day lives, in our activities in the Spirit Center, I have no concerns about it. But from time to time, we may expose ourselves to some external emotions, vibrations.
Yeah.
We need to read the small letters in the contract that we sign. This is part of it. We need to handle it. We need to learn how to handle it.
Yeah.
And if we do not know how to do it, or we do not perceive ourselves, if someone comes to us, watch out. There is something happening. Let's pay attention on that characteristics. And that's part of the process. You will learn with that. There's nothing wrong with that. But you need to be open to receive those informations.
Right.
Sometimes there are people that are not.
Yeah. Well, you could say practice and trust.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Practice and trust in the guidance in the group.
If you are working in a Spirit Center, a serious Spirit Center, if you trust the benefactors, if you see that things are organized in a way that bring you the confidence that what you're doing is safe, you have no questions, in theory, right? But if you go into a place where you don't trust the participants, you don't trust the benefactors, what are you doing there anyway? So there are places and places. You need to find a place that are within your expectations, at least.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
With that, our time is up.
Oh,
But I think there was a pretty good discussion. I think whenever we're talking about emotions, I think it's an important reminder that our emotions tell a lot about our spiritual state, and I think that's what we need to be aware of. Where is the source of it coming from, and if there's anything that we need to do about it. Thank you very, very much, Faye and Guilherme, for this conversation. This is a delicate topic, let's say. But it's been a pleasure. Before we close, let me give our usual announcements. We have, if you'd like to join us, we have every Mondays a book club, a study group where we read the André Luiz books. So we're reading the message at the moment. Here you have the details on how to join. Every Wednesday we have Spiritual Light with different guests and different topics. So tune in, go on YouTube, Buzz YouTube channel, you'll be able to see what is coming up. And if you'd like to join our study group for the Medium's book, it happens every Saturday at 10:30 a.m. UK time. Have the details here as well. Feel free to join us. And that is it for today. Thank you, Faye. Thank you, Guilherme. It was a pleasure to be here with you.
The pleasure with me.
Nice. We hope to see you all again soon. Thank you, Alejandro and Els. I see some comments. Yes, Faye, you have something to say?
Oh, thank you for Guilherme and Rafael for the wonderful chat. Thank you.
Thank you for the topic.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you soon. Bye.